everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my summer reading recommendations. So I feel like, especially because I was a student for so long, summer was my time for really diving into, fun books I could lose myself because I wasn't solely focused on coursework, so I could have a little bit of a break. And these were ones that I think are kind of, even though they deal with some subject matter, they're ones that I think are good to read in the summertime, or they're ones I just kind of read around that time, and I just always think of summer break when I see these. So I kind of have 5 books here that are kind of all over in terms of genre, and yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. So first up, I have a new release that has come out towards the end of this past spring, and it is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is one where I feel like I've really kind of enjoyed, and I feel with Emily Henry, a lot of her books, especially starting out, were hit or miss, and I think it wasn't until Happy Place came out that I became really obsessed with her writing. I feel like that's where she's really found her rhythm with her characters and kind of fleshing out that relationship. And so this one is her newest release, and I loved it. So it follows 2 people who end up becoming roommates because their significant others ended up breaking off their relationship in order so that they could be together because they were childhood friends. And so in order to get revenge on their exes, they decide that they're going to go to their wedding and pretend that they're dating as well. And so you can obviously tell that they're going to eventually fall in love. It goes from there. So I think if you like the proposal with like a fake dating trope, I think you'll really like this. I felt like it was just a perfect summer read. It talks about Michigan in the summertime and like the beaches, and I like I said, I lived in Michigan for a couple years during my master's, and we also vacationed there sometimes as well, and I feel like it perfectly captures like summer in the Great Lakes if you're from around that area. And it was just a lot of fun. Like I said, I think if you do like that trope, I feel like this book does a really good job with kind of those stereotypical kind of romance tropes. And again, I think if you like the proposal with that fake dating, I think you'll like this as well. So like I said, it does have some darker subject matter, but I feel like compared to some of her other books, I feel like this one is just not as dark as some of the other ones, so just be forewarned. But for the most part, I really enjoyed this one, and I think it is the perfect book to read to kickstarting this summer. Next up, this is a book that I just finished a couple days ago, and I feel like it has finally helped me get out of this spring-long reading slump that I've been in, and it is Codename Helene by Ariel Lawhon. This is a book that has been on my TBR for a while, and I am so grateful that I picked this up when I did, because like I said, I've been really slumpy, and I feel like this helped me kind of get out of this slump. And it is a fairly big book. Like, it is like around 460 pages, and I finished it within a couple days. Like, I read like the last like 400 pages within 2 days, which is quite a lot for me because I'm kind of a slow reader. But this is loosely based off of a real life person who actually did these events, who actually, did these things during World War II. So it follows Nancy, who ends up becoming a kind of spy for the British Allied forces during World War II, and at the beginning of the novel, we follow her when she gets parachuted into Nazi-occupied France, where she kind of helps the resistance and the militia groups kind of overcome the German occupation and kind of resisting and assisting with some of the resistance actions there. And so not only do we get her storyline towards, like, I want to say 1944, we also get her kind of experience being in the mid-1930s, where she is a freelance journalist and she ends up falling in love, and kind of the merging of the 2 past and present storylines. Like I said, I was really gripped from this. I really loved the balance between the past and present storylines. I felt like it kept the story going, and sometimes like one storyline would end on a cliffhanger, and then it goes to the other one, it diverts to like the past, and so it keeps you really wanting to read it because it does bounce around, but it does so in a way that it's very continuous with the overarching storyline. And yeah, I think if you really love historical fiction, I think this one is definitely one that is a standout for me. Like I said, it kind of blew me away. Like, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, and it has definitely got me out of a reading slump because I have picked up her newest book that has come out, and like in one day I read 100 pages. So I think this is just an author that I really enjoy, and it's kind of helped get me out of the slump. So if you're looking for a historical fiction that I haven't heard a lot, or you haven't heard a lot about, I highly recommend this one. Like I said, you will be totally captured with the story. Next, this is one that I think is a good book to read in the summer, and it is The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Duray. This is a book I actually read during like kind of a book club that me and my lab mate had during COVID with some of her friends, and this wouldn't have been a book that I would have picked up by myself, and so I'm happy for like with that book club, it kind of forced me to kind of step outside my comfort zone. So this follows Aduni, who is a young girl growing up in Nigeria. I just want to double check, but yeah, she's growing up in Nigeria, and she ends up getting sold to, not essentially sold, but she ends up getting married off to this abusive man when she's quite young. And so we follow her story of like what happens after that kind of marriage basically, and she's always been very passionate. She's always wanted to learn to, you know, read, and she thinks that if girls are taught to read, that they get their louding voice where they become articulate and they can kind of stand up for themselves. So it kind of follows that journey, and yeah, this book was just incredibly powerful and moving, especially with Aduni and just everything she has to overcome. That's like you can't help not root for her. This book, like I will say, it takes a little bit because it's written in the kind of narrative style as if someone who like English isn't their first language, so it does take a little bit to kind of get used to kind of the kind of regressed writing style in terms of the voice of the narrator, where it's kind of in broken English, but once you kind of get past that and you get used to it, I think it totally helps the story and kind of helps create that character of Aduni. And so like I said, this book was really powerful and it really has stuck with me, and I think like the summer is a really good time to read this kind of coming of age story. So this is one that is just kind of totally along the lines of like, I read it around the summertime and it just makes me think of like summertime, like kind of end of spring, early summer, and it is The Folk of the Air Trilogy by Holly Black. This was like what I was reading around the time when like when I was preparing for my dissertation defense for my PhD last year, and I wanted something a little bit less intense to read, and I ended up getting these from the library, and they helped me. I was on like my last brain cell. Like I could not function because I was so stressed and so focused on preparing for my dissertation defense, like getting everything ready. Like I had no energy left in the tank for anything, but I was able to lose myself and get distracted within this trilogy and the other books within this world as well. And I really like this. I think, especially because I grew up with Spiderwick and Holly Black was one of the authors of that, is that like as a kid, when I think of fae, I think of, you know, kind of ugly creatures that have really like teeth to them, if that makes sense. And I feel like this does a really good job of kind of having fae that are kind of very gritty, is what the term. And so this follows Jude, who was kidnapped at a young age, and she is a human living in the fae world, and she despises the fae. She hates the fae, and she's given an opportunity to kind of get revenge on them, and it kind of goes off from there. I really like this one. Like I said, I think this one is just a lot of fun. I really love this world, and I like how we're getting kind of expansions of the world. There's kind of a spin-off duology following kind of a couple minor characters that are introduced in here, and I think there's going to be one that's dealing with something kind of a raging, not war I would say, but raging discomfort and political issues with like another thing. So it's just a lot of fun. Like I said, this kind of just reminds me of summertime, so I just kind of throw this in. But yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this, and it, like I said, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, because it totally, I like lost myself in this, and I definitely needed it around that time. So like I said, I'm a big fan, and if you're looking for fae that like have that like grit and teeth, or if you've read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia, I think you'll kind of like the fae world that is in here. And lastly, this is a book that I haven't really mentioned a lot since I initially read it like a year or two ago, and it is The Golden Doves by Martha Hall Kelly. I was so excited when this book came out. Like I was so excited, and she is author of the Lilac Girls and like kind of the Faraday trilogy, if you're familiar with that. This one is a World War II historical fiction, but I feel like it is a little bit misleading. It kind of deals more post World War II than it does within like actual World War II. So it follows two friends who ended up working in the French resistance during World War II against the Nazis that have infiltrated France, and they are kind of known as the Golden Doves. They were a duo that helped kind of smuggle and give a lot of information to the Allies during this time, and they ended up getting captured and sent to Ravensbrück. But I would say like the majority of this book deals with, I want to say it's in the early 50s, where they are trying to find one of the escaped Nazi officials that was running Ravensbrück and doing the tests. Like, I would feel like the majority, that's what I said, is a little bit misleading because I was expecting a World War II historical fiction novel, but I feel like it deals much more with the aftermath and the after effect of World War II. So it's like in the early 50s, I want to say, and so we follow them as they're kind of still kind of overcoming the trauma that they experienced during this time, and one of them ends up working for like the CIA or something, or OSS, whatever it was at the time, where she's trying to find this doctor that, you know, did these horrible medical tests on women against their will who were in these camps, and then the other one who's trying to find her son, who she hasn't seen since she got sent to Ravensbrück. So these two women are kind of they have kind of their own agenda with what they're trying to dealing with after the fact, and this book deals with the kind of that post World War II timeline. But I really like this. It was super suspenseful. I would almost say it's kind of like a game of like cat and mouse between them trying to find the answer to their questions. And there's just this sense of unease. You always know that there's something going on, and it gives you that sense of unease. Like, you're not getting the full picture, but you get that unease. Like, there's something else kind of behind the scenes going on. And I really like this. Like I said, even though I was expecting like a World War II historical fiction, and it kind of took me by surprise, I still really love that like contrast with the kind of after effect of the war. I feel like a lot of books deal with the war, and you do get that some perspective of their like resistance, but I think it's interesting also to get the perspective of like what is the trauma, like what do these people go through after the war is over, and there's still kind of an inner war in them. And I really like how this book explores that, and also explores female friendship and all those things. So if you're looking for a historical fiction that is a little bit different, I think this is a great book to pick up. And I feel like, again, the summertime is the perfect time to dive into this. So yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this, and I think you guys will too. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what summer reading recommendations you have and all that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.